Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Berjumpa kembali Bapak Ibu para hadirin dan peserta sekalian, baik yang datang dalam ruangan maupun yang hadir dalam jagat digital. Kita segera memasuki sesi panel pertama dalam rangkaian ICROM 2023. Judul sesi panel pertama adalah State Perspective on Religious Diversity from Regulation to Reality. Sesi panel pertama ini akan dimoderatori oleh Maria Fauzi.
This session aims to see how far the sustainability of regulation and policies impacts religious communities in Indonesia, and how they are applied in practice when they are intersect with certain religious beliefs in Indonesia. All right, without further ado, we invite Ms. Maria Fauzi to enter the stage and guide the first panel discussion.
Mr. Maria Fauzi, please welcome. Miss, maaf.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, to this special event on International Conference on Religious Moderations held by this Directorate for Islamic Religious Thoughts of the Directorate General of Islamic Guidance of the Ministry of Religious Affairs of the Republic Indonesia in collaboration with El-Bukhari, Institute Islami Co, Center for Religious and Cultural Studies, Leiden University, LPM Jogja, LP2M UIN Jakarta, UIN Sunan Kalijaga, and Moderator. First of all, I would like to welcome all of you here in this special occasions to our amazing speakers and participants and all of the guests here, and all of you who are coming to, who has been coming to Yogyakarta, probably since the days before. I hope you have wonderful days in Yogyakarta. So I myself, Maria Fauzi, am honored and I'm pleased to be your moderator here in this panel discussion. Before further discussion, I would like to invite our speakers today. Here we have here with us Professor Ismatu Ropi, Ph.D. Please welcome. And also we have here Professor Dr. Sahiron Syamsuddin. Please welcome. And we have also our speakers who are now in the Netherlands. We have here Professor Tahir Abbas, who is in Zoom meeting. You can see here in the screen. No? Okay. Hello, Professor Tahir Abbas. And also we have Imam Shefiu Abdulkareem, Majemu founder and co-executive director from Nigeria.
Assalamualaikum.
Ya, selamat siang semuanya. Terima kasih sudah bergabung di sini di acara konferensi internasional dalam Religious Moderation, Conference on Religious Moderations. Di sini saya akan memakai dua bahasa, bahasa Inggris dan juga bahasa Indonesia karena audiens bahasa Inggris, tapi juga beberapa narasumber kita ada yang berbahasa, bahasa Indonesia, narasumber kita bahasa Inggris. Ini modelnya kan semi-semi talk show ya. Jadi ini serasa conference tapi kayak semacam konser. Karena audiensnya anak-anak muda Pak, anak-anak muda semuanya. Jadi kalau diberikan konsep yang seminar banget gitu ya, konferensi banget, saya kira ngantuk. Nah kalau ada yang ngantuk berarti ini ya, berarti kurang heboh lagi ya acaranya. Karena ini pertama kali saya memoderatori sebuah conference tapi memang semacam kayak konser gitu kan. Jadi ada lighting-lightingnya gimana gitu ya. Okay, before further ado, I would like to introduce our speakers today. We have Professor Ismatu Ropi, Ph.D., Islamic State University of Syarifiyatullah. Welcome, Professor Ismatu. Semoga sehat.
Insyaallah sehat.
Professor Ismatu Ropi completed his doctoral education from the School of Culture, History and Language at the Australian National University, having previously earned MA degree from Institute of Islamic Studies, Faculty of Graduate Studies and Research, McGill University, Montreal, Canada. He has achieved various academic achievements, starting from the ANBETS Award for the Best Dissertation at NU in the 2012 Indonesian study entitled The Politics of Regulating Religion, State, Civil Society and the Quest for Religious Freedom in Modern Indonesia. Several articles have been written include Against All Heterodoxies, accounts of the deviant groups in contemporary Indonesian Islamic literature. And we have also here Professor Dr. Sahiron Syamsuddin, which is very well-known scholars in Islamic studies. Professor Sahiron Syamsuddin is the Deputy Counselor of UIN Sunan Kalijaga and is a professor in the fields of Quran and hermeneutics. We have here also, I would like to introduce to our speakers, Professor Tahir Abbas. Hello, Professor Tahir Abbas. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Assalamu alaikum.
What is time it is in Netherlands? What is it? What
It
time
is
in the Netherlands?
8:30 in the morning. I'm in the UK at the moment, but it's 8:30.
So thank you for joining to this conference. So Professor Tahir Abbas, is a professor in radicalization studies at the Institute of Security and Global Affairs at Leiden University in The Hague. He holds a Ph.D. in ethnic relations from the University of Warwick. His current research interests are the intersections of Islamophobia and radicalization, gender and violence, intergenerational transmission of Islamism, and ethnic relations. He is the author, editor, and co-editor of 20 books and more than 100 peer-reviewed articles and chapters. So we have also the last speaker here. There is with us Imam Shefiu Abdulkareem Majemu. Hello, Imam Shefiu, are you with us? Assalamualaikum. Assalamualaikum. How are you?
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm fine, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Shukran. Thank you for joining us in this conference. So I would like to introduce Imam Shefiu. He is the founder and co-executive director of the Strength in Diversity Development Center and Interreligious Coalition Against Corruption in Nigeria. And also he is a member of the Network for Religious and Traditional Peacemakers in Washington, D.C., the Partnership for Religion and Development, United Nations Environment Program. So we have here all, I have already introduced all of our speakers today, and speaking about this topic, Professor Ismatu and Professor Sahiron, we know that in our modern societies, religious diversity stands as both a testament to human pluralism and a challenge that requires delicate navigation. States around the world grapple with the intricate interplay between regulating this diversity and allowing it to flourish organically. We have also here the phenomena of radicalization that also being a concern of our global world. And first of all, if we know, we want to listen, and also we want to more know about the how radicalization and terrorism can engage and influence our diversity and our global religious moderatism. We have here first, I would like to invite, I think Pak Abbas dulu. Abbas dulu. Bapak dulu, Pak Ismatu dulu. Oke. So, iya, yang di sini dulu. We will find out more about the diversity of Islamic understanding in Indonesia, its intersection with its categorization as customary of cultural and transform diversity into tolerant, non-discriminatory and peaceful conditions, both in form of policies by the government. So for the first speaker, I will invite Professor Ismatu Ropi, Ph.D. to share his thought and also his recent research about this topic. Please, Professor Ismatu, your floor is yours. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm looking forward for the PPTs. Okay. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin wa bihi nasta'in ala umuri dunya waddin. Salatu wassalamu ala asrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabi ajmain. Rabbi israh li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Amma ba'd. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished attendees and scholars and guests, I am truly honored to stand before you today at this second international conference on religious moderations, where we gather here to discuss the themes that hold a paramount importance in today's complex global landscape. Allow me in this session to focus particularly on how we can learn from our previous experience, where the previous government took too many control of religious affairs. And therefore, we may then negotiate and to take part in paving the boundaries of governing religion in our countries in order to make a better religious life in Indonesia. Indonesia's history, as we know, is deeply interwoven with the rich tapestry of culture and faith, where Islam, Christianity, Catholicism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Confucianism, and local belief coexist. The existing plurality of religions, while indeed an invaluable values and asset, but also presents both challenge and opportunity when it comes to governing religion. It should be underlined in the sense that in terms of religious demography, Muslims constitute almost 85% of total population, where the rest of the 15% consists of other religious groups. We used to call this composition as demography as asymmetrical pluralism. It referred to a situation where there is a coexistent diverse group or interests, but the distribution of powers, influence, and resource among this group is uneven and unequal. Asymmetrical pluralism also describes societal structures where certain groups hold significantly more power or control rather than others, leading to an imbalanced representation of interests. I will go back to discuss this later, while to discuss what is the consequence of this kind of asymmetrical pluralism to the politics of religions. Let's return to the topics. Within the backdrop of this asymmetrical pluralism in terms of religious composition, Indonesia gains in its independence, and soon, following the long debate on the place of religion in the state system, Indonesia adopted the constitution that clearly incorporates the importance of religion in the state system and the community life. Hence, Indonesia is a religious country where religion serves as constitutional norms and plays roles in social, legal, and political realisms. The incorporation of religion in Indonesian constitution has its immediate consequences, as the government claims this constitutional value as the main argument to regulate and intervene in religious affairs. It should be made clear here that regulating religion in Indonesia is not constitutional right, for the right that has been explicitly stated in the mentioned constitution. It is only constitutional values or implicit values that took the root from the incorporation of religious aspect in our constitution. In turn, following the heavy-handed political consolidation along in Orde Lama and Orde Baru eras, the government become more and more obsessive in regulating and governing religions. And in this obsessiveness of governing religious affairs, there was also a steady on constant negotiation between the elites of governments and the majority of religious groups. Within this backdrop, given the fact of asymmetrical pluralism that existed in the country, as we have discussed before, it comes no surprise that Muslim community constitute the majority, and consequently, it was also logical then if Islamic norms and values have served as the main and determinant factors in assessing religious behaviors and practice for all communities. That is to be called distinct normative regime of law, where legal principle, rule, and standard from the majority have been recognized and enforced, and often for the benefit of the majority groups. To this sense, Indonesia is not an Islamic state, but the principle of teachings, perspective, and values of Islam influence the patterns of the law and the political policy. And in many cases and stages, the regulation issued by the government must align and in line with the norms and interests of Muslim population as the majority. Return back to the topics, and this is the real portrait of regulation of religion, particularly in Suharto era. Thus, the combination of government obsession with social, political, economic control and correct management taken mostly from the norms of orthodoxy from majority groups brought into existence new unprecedented restrictions on religion in Indonesia. It is the governmentalization of religious policy, if I can use Foucault terms, in which the regime constructed the logic of governmental power by which the citizen were subject to the state domination by means of policy to regulate their behavior in religion with the correct management of individual, people, and good in detail. Indonesia was becoming one of the most heavily regulated countries in the world with regard to religious observance. I think there is no country in the world that has a huge number of regulation on religion, governing all religious activity, from creed, how we believe to God, to how loudspeaker in the mosque to be installed and directed to. So following the installment of Reformasi, promising hope arose for the betterment of religious life. But this in line with the rise of religious conservatism and populism. Not only, indeed, this kind of things happen in Indonesia, but also in any other part of the world. It is likely to argue here that in this stand that the steady rise of Islamic populism in Indonesia in this recent year also has its initial root to the model of distinctive normative regime of law we have discussed earlier, where constant negotiation to put Islamic symbolism into public arena is always on display. This model of religious populism often creates a definitive model of what is believed to be the most correct and legitimate, particularly in terms of religious teachings and the practice, and the proponent of this model then pressure the state to marginalize or to restrict other groups' freedom that are seen as inconsistent with the model they have proposed. This model is clearly manifested in various cases of religious tension, particularly in this four latent problem of religious relation. So in Indonesia, in recent Indonesia, we have in particularly four problems that has been a problem of religious relation. The first is about religious conversion. The second is about mission. The third is about blasphemy that has been misunderstood long, and the establishment of the house of worship or the house of sanctuary. Sometimes Whether consciously or not, the state appears to favor this model of populism, unfortunately. As the consequence, the state seems to endorse one of the orthodox model as public morality applicable to all society. Let's take a small example of how the government unconsciously becomes such the sponsor of particular form of orthodoxy and serving it as public morality. In Indonesia, we have a regulation that from the title itself has already clearly indicated its own explicit bias. Ada pedoman, penanganan, aliran gerakan, dan gerakan keagamaan bermasalah di Indonesia. The guideline for handling problematics, religious movement and sects in Indonesia. From the outset, if we use the simple logic, the term problematic here in this regulation clearly reveal where the government stands. The contents of this regulation also clearly indicate that the state adoption to particular model of orthodoxy, denoting how the state has protected the interests of particular orthodox group and preserving their value within the state system. Amid the existing problem in the politics of regulating religion, it is nevertheless timely to negotiate again the extent of the role of government in regulating religious life in Indonesia. How far the government may or may not intervene in religious life. What I understand from the notion of religious moderation or moderasi beragama that has been now the most important part of current government policy is that there are three domains that the government may or may not intervene in religious affairs. The first, government should take or intervene in religious affairs if it is related to right and universal values like kindness, justice, and so forth, like Pak Lukman has been mentioned before. And the second, the government may intervene if it is related to common goods for all religious community, like the establishment of religious sanctuary. And the last is that the government is prohibited to intervene if it is about intra-religious problem, intra-religious affairs within particular religious community. Overall, to negotiate the boundary of government religion, we must first acknowledge that any approach must be rooted in respect for human rights and the rule of law. The Indonesian Constitution guarantees freedom of religion, yet it also emphasizes the unity of the nation. This is a clear call for careful navigation between upholding religious rights and maintaining social cohesion. It is crucial to prevent any particular religion from being privileged over others, while ensuring that no group's rights are infringed. We all here should take a role as the agent to promote equality with fairness as a fundamental principle for religious life with its two dimensions. The first is consent as an indication that the rules are applied to every person. And the second is reciprocity, which means that each person receives equal benefit and opportunity when the rules are applied. Education also plays an instrumental role in this kind of negotiation. By promoting interfaith understanding and tolerance from the early age, we lay the foundation for a more inclusive society. Education system should provide unbiased and comprehensive religious education, emphasizing shared values and universal principle of morality. Not only education may counteract its extremist ideology, but also cultivate empathy and respect among the youngest generation. Furthermore, the media can also be a powerful force in shaping public perceptions, like Lukman has also mentioned. Responsible journalism that avoids sensationalism and prioritize balanced coverage has also important role to counter the spread of misinformation and stereotypes that might fuel religious tension. Media entities should adhere to ethical standards that promote harmony and respect for diversity. As we navigate this boundary, it is important to recognize that government policy must remain fair, treating all religion impartially. This safeguards the principle of equal citizenship and irrespective of faith. In conclusion, negotiating the boundary of government religion in modern Indonesia is a multifaceted endeavor. It requires a delicate balance between respecting individual freedom, promoting social cohesion, and maintaining democratic principles. As we move forward, let us remember that mutual dialogues, education, responsible media, the impartial application of the law are essential tools in crafting policy that reflect the aspiration of a diverse and harmonious nation. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih Profesor Ismatu sudah memberikan sedikit banyak pandangan kita terhadap bagaimana sebenarnya negara punya andil besar terhadap tumbuhnya, termasuk juga tumbuhnya ketidakadilan, toleransi dan segala macamnya, dan juga di samping itu negara juga promoting tentang ketidakseimbangan antara bagaimana di dalam realita ataupun dalam fenomena sosial kita terdapat banyak sekali gap yang sebenarnya juga tidak dibawakan oleh negara, tentunya tentang bagaimana membawa religious moderation itu menjadi sebuah tujuan bersama. Dan seperti Pak Ismatu bilang tadi, education, awareness dan juga media play an important role terhadap bagaimana masyarakat kita mempunyai awareness yang besar terhadap keberagamaan. Nah, kita masih berbincang tentang konteks Indonesia. Ini ada Profesor Sahiron Syamsuddin yang akan lebih jelas lagi atau memperdalam tentang pandangan bagaimana sebenarnya pengaruh negara terhadap menyebarkan dan juga menumbuhkan karakter-karakter keberagamaan yang ada di masyarakat Indonesia. Silakan Profesor Sahiron.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin wa bihi nasta'inu ala umurid dunya waddin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina wa maulana Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa ummatihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Good afternoon everybody. Today I would like to talk to my Muslim brothers with regard to religious moderation in the perspective of Quranic and Hadith studies, right? Because my expertise is Quranic studies and Hadith, but it is still related to what we have in Indonesia, of course, yeah. So, yes. First of all, I would like to emphasize that what the government needs from us in relation to religious moderation is one, we have to have commitment to the Republic of Indonesia, Negara Kesatuan Republik Indonesia in Pancasila, the first one. So by doing religious moderation, the government hopes or need from us to be commitment to our nation, commitment to our Pancasila, the first one. The second one is we should be tolerant to other people who have, different beliefs, different religions, different points of view, and so on, so forth. The second one. And the third one is that we should not act criminal action against those who are different from us in relation to religion, thought, and whatsoever. And the last one is that we we should respect our, tradition, local tradition. We don't have to agree with a certain tradition that you probably you think that are not right, for example. But we have to respect. We have to respect, local traditions, and everything belongs to society. Good. That is the 4 points that should be, should have, in our mind, in our hearts. So then, okay. But on the other hand, some people said to us that religious moderation is influenced by Western tradition, dipengaruhi oleh tradisi Barat. And some people, said that it is, it comes from Jewish, Jewish opinion or Jewish view, in relation to the reality. So today I would like to, to support religious moderation according to the Quran and As-Sunnah. So, and at the beginning I would say that Islam from the beginning is a moderate religion. So the Prophet Muhammad taught, his companions about the religion that is already moderate. So from the beginning, of course, until today. So our religion, Islam, is really moderate. But some Muslims are not moderate. Some Muslims are not moderate. So then I would talk to, to our brother, my brothers from Islamic religion, that there are so many arguments coming from the Quran to support moderate religious moderation. First of all, Al-Quran, Surat Al-Fatihah, Ihdinas siratal mustaqim, siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim, ghairil maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. This is the first argument for religious moderation. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim, in bahasa Indonesia, ya Allah, tunjukkanlah kami ke jalan yang lurus. As-sirat al-mustaqim, ya Allah, guide us to the right way. As-sirat al-mustaqim. The question is, what is the meaning of as-sirat al-mustaqim? Jalan lurus itu apa sih? Saya tidak perlu menafsirkan. I don't need to interpret this verse by myself. No, we can refer to, for example, a tafsir proposed by Al-Imam Fakhruddin Ar-Razi fi Mafatihul Ghaib. Dalam kitab Mafatihul Ghaib itu diterangkan begini. Jadi someday Al-Imam Fakhruddin Ar-Razi was asked by his students, what is the meaning of as-sirat al-mustaqim? Then he answered this question in a long answer, in many answers. But the second answer, the question coming from this Imam, is stated something like this, au kama qala, in bahasa Arab, Annal ulama'a bayyanu anna fi kulli khuluqin minal akhlaqi tarafai tafritin wa ifratin. Sesungguhnya para ulama ini menerangkan bayyanu anna fi kulli khuluqin minal akhlaq. Sesungguhnya dalam setiap perilaku manusia, kita semua ini tarafai tafritin wa ifratin. Ada dua ujung. Taraf, ujung yang apa namanya ekstrim kanan dan kiri di setiap perilaku kita. Annal ulama'a bayyanu anna fi kulli khuluqin minal akhlaqi tarafai tafritin wa ifratin wa huma madhmumani. The two extreme ways are not good. Madhmuman, tercela kalau bahasa Indonesianya ya. Wal haqqu huwal wasatu. And the right thing is moderation, al-wasat, moderate. Moderation between both, between two, extreme things. At-tafrit wal-ifrat. وَيَتَأَكَّدُ ذَلِكَ بِقَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى. And this kind of, understanding is supported, by another verse. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وكذلك جعلناكم أمة وسطا. It is stated in مفاتيح الغيب. مفاتيح الغيب. And at the end of this paragraph, of this answer, Al-Imam Fakhruddin Ar-Razi said, Al-mu'minu, the believer, yatlubu min Allah, ayyahdiyahu ila siratil mustaqim. Alladhi huwal wasatu. Alladhi huwal wasatu baina tarafai al-ifrati wal tafrit fi kulli al-a'mali wa fi kulli al-akhlaq. So the believers hopes or needs from God, to guide us to the right way, that is, or which is, ini bahasa Jakarta Selatannya, which is a middle way between two extreme ways. So that from the beginning, the beginning, Islam is a moderate, religion. But some Muslims become unmoderate. So that is the problem, I think. So anak-anak muda ini harus tahu betul ya, yang Muslim ya, tentunya saya lagi berbicara dengan yang Muslim ya. Jadi ini harus diketahui bahwa sejak awal Islam itu sudah moderat. There is a hadith, reported by Anas bin Malik. Ja'a salasatu rahtin min ashabin Nabi. Datang 3 kelompok, three groups of his companions came to the Prophet Muhammad, to the house of the Prophet Muhammad. Wahum kanu yas'aluna an ibadatin Nabi. And they had asked about, the ibadah, about the ibadah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Siti Aisyah radhiyallahu anha answered the question, this question. And she explains so many things, so many ibadah conducted by the Prophet Muhammad. And then the Sahaba, the people, the companions of the Prophet Muhammad thought at that time, laqad ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dhanbihi wa ma ta'akhkhar. Sungguh Rasulullah ini sudah diampuni dosanya, tetapi kok ibadahnya sangat-sangat rajin. Not only the obliged prayers were conducted by the Prophet Muhammad, but sunnah, solat sunnah juga dilakukan. Fa'aina nahnu minan nabi. The companions, the companions of the Prophet thought, fa'aina nahnu. Where are we? Where our position in relation to the Prophet Muhammad? Kalau dibandingkan, in comparison to the Prophet Muhammad, kalau dibandingkan dengan Nabi Muhammad, ini posisi kami di mana nih? kami belum diampuni dosanya, tetapi ibadahnya tidak begitu rajin. Akhirnya para sahabat ini mau menjadi ekstrim. Fa'amma ana, nah ini, fa'amma ana fa'usalli kullal layli wala arqud. I want to pray in the night, all the night. I do not want to sleep for a moment. Enggak mau. Dia mau ekstrim nih. And then the second one, wa amma ana fa asumu kullad dahri wala uftiru. I want to tomorrow I want to fast, berpuasa from day to day until the end of this year, except of course the days in which somebody is forbidden to fast, ya. Jadi pengen puasa setiap tahun, sepanjang tahun. Mulai ekstrim nih para sahabat itu. Wa amma ana, yang ketiga, fa amma ana fa a'tazilun nisaa wala atazawwajuhunna. Saya akan jomblo, enggak akan menikah, saya gunakan waktunya untuk sholat, untuk puasa, untuk baca Quran dan seterusnya. Mulai ekstrim nih. Nabi Muhammad datang. Kemudian the Prophet Muhammad came. Oh, 5 menit lagi. Oh ya sudah. Sebentar, 5 menit lagi. Memang waktunya harus panjang. Ini ceramah umum. Untuk anak-anak muda. Baik, 5 menit lagi sebentar ya. Oh ya, terima kasih Mbak ya. So, nah, kemudian kanjeng Nabi Muhammad SAW, laqad sami'tu annakum kuntum taquluna kadza wa kadza. Ya pakai bahasa Arab supaya ngerti bahwa saya itu bisa bahasa Arab juga, maksud saya begitu ya. Yes. Ya Syekh, ana uridu an atakallam ya bil lughatil arabiyyah in bil idafati ila lughatil injiliziyah. Laqad sami'tu annakum kuntum taquluna kadza wa kadza. Ama ketahuilah, innani aksyakum lillah. Saya ini orang yang paling takut kepada Allah Subhanahu wa taala. Wa atqakum lahu, dan paling yang bertakwa di antara kalian ini. Walakinnani, tapi saya usalli lailan wa arqud. Saya sholat malam tapi juga tidur. Jangan ekstrim seperti sampean ini loh. Kok mau ekstrim kayak begini, begitu. Wa asumu yauman. Saya puasa hari ini, wa uftiru yauman. Besok lo buka. Puasa 1 hari, besoknya buka. Gitu. Wa atazawwajun nisa, dan saya menikahi wanita-wanita. Tapi jangan difahami poligaminya loh ya. Salah nih. Bukan. Ini ekstrim. Kalau masalah poligami nanti didiskusi di tempat lain ya, diundang lagi aja lah nih. Ini teman saya Mas Isman ini di Kanada dulu. Satu suka guyonan. Good. Ya. Jadi ini sahabat mau moderat dihadang oleh Rasulullah. Dan tidak mau ekstrim dihadang oleh Rasul. Jangan ekstrim jadi orang itu. Wajar saja beragama itu. Religious moderation. So from this text, then we understand that Islam from the beginning is a moderate religion. Jadi kalau ada saudara muslim yang ekstrim-ekstrim kayak begitu tuh, harus belajar lagi. Kembali lagi ke Islam yang sebenarnya. Sampean kok diam semua, paham atau yang ya. Ada lagi nih, masih ada berapa menit? 1 menit dah. Nabi Muhammad ini pernah nih, coba buka surat Al-Baqarah ayat 111-113. Ceritanya nih gampangannya, karena waktunya 1 menit nih, ada konflik antara umat Yahudi dan umat Kristen waktu zaman Nabi. Jadi ceritanya Nabi Muhammad itu sedang ngobrol nih. He spoke to Christian people from Najran, ahlu Najran. Oke, lagi asyik-asyiknya bercerita dengan Nabi Muhammad, orang Kristen. Lalu datang, came the Jewish people. Jewish people at that time. And then orang Yahudi mengatakan apa? Muhammad, ketahuilah, orang Kristen ini beragama itu tidak punya landasannya. Wa qalatil yahudu laisatin nasara ala syai'. Nah, coba orang Kristen kira-kira marah tidak? Ya marah dong. Ya betul nggak? Di hadapan Nabi itu orang Yahudi mengatakan orang Kristen ini enggak beragama, enggak ada apa namanya, landasannya yang kuat. La yadkhulul jannata illa man kana hudan. Those who will go to paradise are only Jewish people. Hanya orang Yahudi yang masuk surga. Nih, orang Yahudi mengklaim dirinya paling benar, masuk surga sendirian, ya kan? Menyalahkan orang Kristen. Orang Kristen kemudian marah. Akhirnya waqalatin nasara laisatil yahudu ala syai'. Justru orang Yahudi beragama tidak apa namanya benar. Wala yadkhulul jannata illa man kana nasraniyan. Tidak ada yang masuk surga kecuali orang Nasrani. Sama-sama membenarkan dirinya masing konflik di depan in front of the Prophet Muhammad. You know, they had a conflict, huge conflict at that time. Lalu Nabi Muhammad melerai, qul hatu burhanakum in kuntum shadiqin. Kalau kalian benar, coba tunjukkan di orang Yahudi, tunjukkan ada enggak ayat di Taurat yang mengatakan bahwa yang masuk surga yang benar sendiri adalah Yahudi. Enggak ada, diam. Wahai orang Kristiani, kalian terpancing emosi. Coba tunjukkan Bible-nya, Injilnya, mana ayat yang menerangkan tentang bahwa hanya orang Kristen saja yang masuk surga. Rasulullah kemudian menguniversalkan, bala man aslama wajhahu lillahi wa huwa muhsin. Yang masuk surga itu loh orang yang taat kepada Tuhan, entah kepercayaannya bagaimana, wa huwa muhsinun, satu Tuhan, wa huwa muhsinun, dan berbuat baik kepada siapapun. Falahu ajruhu 'inda rabbih wa la khaufun 'alaihim wa lahum yahzanun. Itu loh Islam ngajarin begitu. Kenapa sih kita harus nyalahin orang? Nabi yang belum enggak kok. Enggak menyalahin siapa-siapa. Waktunya sudah habis. Wallahul muwaffiq ila aqwamit thoriq. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much Profesor Sahiron Syamsuddin. Terima kasih banyak sudah memberikan penjelasan dari perspektif lain, yaitu perspektif tentang dari Al-Quran dan juga sumber-sumber otoritatif keagamaan. Bagaimana sebenarnya Islam adalah agama moderat dari awalnya. Sehingga ketika kian kemari kok semakin menganan atau mengiri, berarti itu sudah keluar dari jalur-jalur ataupun keluar dari jalur utama, arus utama keislaman. So here we are, there are at least 3 challenges for how in the process of strengthening religious moderations. I think the first one is the development and also the growing number of the excessive and extreme religious understanding that has have already mentioned by Professor Sahiron Syamsuddin. And the second challenge is also the emergence of truth claim regarding religious interpretation. So here we are, we have Professor Thohir Abbas that will addressing the roots of terrorism, a holistic approach towards religious diversity in the public sphere. So Professor Thohir Abbas, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah.
Hope you can hear me okay.
Yeah, we heard it.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
distinguished individuals, esteemed attendees, scholars, and knowledge seekers, I would like to express my sincere greetings to all present. I'm deeply grateful for the opportunity to be present among you all as we engage in a scholarly exploration of the multifaceted and significant topic of state attitudes towards religious diversity and some of the implications this creates for social cohesion and wider social relations, sometimes leading to risks of polarization and in some cases extremism. We want to examine the topic as fully as possible, and in my remarks I want to be able to try and speak to what's happening in this part of the world, in the global north, but also relate it to issues elsewhere, including in Indonesia. We have unparalleled globalization, the movement of people across continents, rapid technological advancement. And in this space, the subject of religious pluralism holds significant importance in shaping societal dynamics. And this subject transcends geographical borders, cultural diversity, and historical contexts, exerting influence on nations with diverse political ideologies, ranging from secular liberal democracies to states that firmly embed religion within their constitutional framework. And so, therefore, the importance of effectively managing religious diversity should not be underestimated. And the presence of a diverse range of beliefs and practices can contribute to its cultural diversity and vibrancy. And in order to do this, we need an inclusive environment to prevent tensions and conflicts from arising, as has been discussed by the colleagues on the panels already. We can start with Indonesia, which has its own rich Islamic traditions that peacefully coexist with various minority religions. However, there are numerous challenges present, even in secular Western states, where the distinction between religion and governance seems to be clearly defined. And so let's try to work through this in a comparative framework to look at the ways we can introduce effective practices and policies to achieve maximum and optimal human harmonization. Now, the ways in which states govern religious affairs is intricately linked to its historical development and constitutional framework. Secular states, particularly those in Western Europe, typically adhere to the principle of maintaining a clear demarcation between religious institutions and the state. But within these contexts, there is a tendency to adopt a laissez-faire approach, which entails permitting unrestricted exercise of religious freedoms, while simultaneously imposing limitations on the direct intervention by the state. We can think about the so-called Quran burnings in Sweden presently. This is because of the freedom of expression rules, which were not designed for these kinds of things, but they have been exploited in a very polarized political context. In the case of Indonesia, with the Pancasila philosophy, we have a more explicit position regarding religion. The ministry is directly involved in the management of religious matters. And as a result, there is a higher degree of religious regulation when compared to secular countries. Nevertheless, in all of these situations, there is an inherent tension that is central to religious governance. So the topic at hand is the delicate balance of achieving the balance between freedom of religion and the limitations imposed by societal and legal considerations. And this attainment of balance between these two positions is necessary to hold together social cohesion and safeguard national security concerns in some cases, which can be another challenging realm of this sphere, especially when it becomes, again, very political and politicized by different spheres of society, including media. And this is where minority groups who are found, particularly in the European context, are burdened with the challenge of navigating the perception that their beliefs pose a challenge to the prevailing values of the established social structure. So we've got this problem of centralization around the regulation and the fact of diversity and the implications it has for inclusion. And we know that in Indonesia, there are these tensions around various groups that are recognized or not recognized. Shia Sunni tensions are also sometimes observable. Some of these issues also play out in the context of minority-majority relations in the European space. So these inherent tensions inevitably lead to discrepancies between the desired outcome of progressive regulations and the practical challenges encountered in real-world implementation. I mentioned there are challenges in Indonesia, but for example, in the UK, which has a well-established set of equality laws, anti-Muslim sentiment remains prevalent. For example, extremist groups such as Britain First, which is a far-right nationalist group, engage in the active dissemination of Islamophobic ideologies. Scandinavian countries, I mentioned Denmark, for example, they place significant emphasis on secularism, yet have implemented policies such as the prohibition of religious headwear, specifically niqabs, which disproportionately impact Muslim women. Now, in the Netherlands, where upholding the principle of freedom of expression is seen as essential, there is the tendency for the blasphemy laws to be disproportionately affecting minority communities. So we have these gaps which serve to highlight the insufficiency of relying solely on legal safeguards. Authentic religious inclusion can be facilitated through the combination of cultural transformation and effective enforcement mechanisms. So what are these mechanisms? How can we manage religious inclusivity? We have, of course, a range of interfaith initiatives, collaborative efforts aimed at promoting dialogue, understanding, cooperation among individuals of different backgrounds exists even, for example, in Indonesia, when we think about organizations such as the Muhammadiyah and the NU, which play a critical role in promoting tolerance and fostering mutual understanding, cultivating an environment of harmony amidst diverse societal elements. We have legal safeguards, anti-discrimination legislation, and affirmation action policies play a pivotal role in enhancing the representation and inclusion of marginalized communities. The 2016 decree in Indonesia provides protection of indigenous faiths, serves as an example. We also know that in educational curricula, the integration of religious literacy into educational systems can serve to dismantle stereotypes and address prejudice that is targeting minority groups. We also have to think about the role of the state and civil society organizations. Back in the UK, we have collaboration between governmental institutions and civil society organizations to facilitate harmonization of top-down policies with an understanding of intricate dynamics of grassroots contexts. The anti-Muslim hatred working group in the United Kingdom is an example of collaborative efforts of government entities and non-governmental organizations and community leaders having an active dialogue that builds those solutions through engagement based on trust and reciprocal understanding and appreciation. And this is a very tricky balance because of the role that Islamophobia plays so powerfully in Western Europe and in North America right now. The degree of a lack of trust that the state institutions in general have of Muslims is quite high. So this really results in the importance of trying to understand or develop a balance between autonomy and oversight. The establishment of a harmonious equilibrium between regional autonomy and national supervision facilitates the development of customized solutions, while simultaneously mitigating the risk of local authoritarianism targeting minority populations. So if we think about national, regional, and local elements in these governance systems, there is a risk that can be introduced if we don't have clear oversight. But at the same time, a degree of freedom is necessary in order to introduce those flexible mechanisms that consider differences in local contexts. So these are all real challenges around governance of religious diversity and where there are these different legal systems at play. But it's important to appreciate that the establishment of inclusive religious governance is recognized as a fundamental element in fostering social stability and promoting harmony. And the aspirations of diverse faiths can thrive within inclusive public spaces because of regulation, implementation, and collaboration between the state and society. So these are the positives, and we can try and work with these mechanisms, and we have good examples that allow us to learn and develop and move forward in a way that is inclusive and purposive. However, there are major challenges, and I focus here a little bit on the European and the North American context. Islamophobia is rife. This is the fear of Islam and Muslims that goes deep into the workings of society and its institutions. It's linked to the historical colonial process. It's linked to post-war migration, when Muslims, as part of the migration of people from all over the world to take up jobs in various industrial sectors of the economy, were basically included at the bottom of society in terms of a class system that is a very powerful system in Europe, and with England probably the most classed society in the world. So how to manage relations between people when the introduction of Muslims was at the effectively bottom of society, to do the jobs that nobody else wanted to do and to live in areas that nobody else wanted to live in. So this structural racism is very much a part of the reality of a wider discourse of indifference, which also is a function of Islamophobia, which is cultural. It can be legal. It certainly can be political, and it's also based on ideas of the other that have deep roots in colonial and racial scientific thinking that goes back to much wider historical periods. And if we think of what that means today, the use of Islamic discourses by Islamophobic discourses like politicians and media exacerbates the marginalization of Muslim minority groups, thereby reinforcing and legitimizing discriminatory attitudes and actions towards them. We can just think about the 2016 presidential election exacerbated the prevailing anti-Muslim sentiment of the time, and it took advantage of that to create political polarization and political opportunities. We can also think about Brexit. While not explicitly anti-Muslim, the fake messaging around that was very powerful. The poster of hundreds of thousands of people seemingly rushing into the country because of the European Union's relaxed regulations on migration was a complete fabrication. The idea that somehow all of these Turkish immigrants who are effectively Muslim would be rushing into the UK was again to scare the population into this very draconian, very backward-looking idea that England, or England as part of Britain, can survive on its own. But it doesn't stop there. We have surveillance policies as part of the United Kingdom's Prevent strategy, which exhibited disproportionate focus on Muslim communities, which is based on this perception that Islam is a precursor to extremism and terrorism itself, which then creates further divisions, and it breaks down that possibility of trust building, which is necessary in order to introduce the viable religious governance mechanisms that are necessary. And radicalization is complex. It has so many facets to it. Too much, however, is focused on the view that somehow radicalization is a problem that is inherent within the religion and the faith of Muslims, which is problematic because it takes away attention from these wider problems of exclusion and racialization and alienation that impact significantly on the risks that some people face that lead to a very small proportion to undertake actions that might be seen as radicalized to the point of being violent and extremist. We're talking about a very few number of people, but the policies entirely capture all Muslims, and so surveillance in that sense is very powerful. We have hate crimes targeting Muslim minorities, Muslim women who are wearing the headscarf in the public sphere are the most likely to face Islamophobic attacks. We've also seen the cases of Sikh men who have beards and turbans, who are also somehow targeted because they are perceived to be Muslims. So Muslim minorities
excuse me, Professor Tahir, excuse me, we have minutes left. We have 2 minutes left.
I'll be very quick.
So, yeah, sure.
Just coming to the last couple of words.
Okay.
So Muslim minorities encounter various obstacles in terms of employment, education, and these are all part of the Islamophobic landscape, heightened by a security concern, which impacts on fear and further enhances radicalization. Islamophobia and radicalization reinforce each other. And then we have the growing problem of far-right extremism, which targets Muslims. So in conclusion, we have to think about managing diversity as an urgent but complex challenge. And we need to think about governance as critical for harmony. And we have to think about removing prejudices that subordinate minorities. So I think it's probably advisable to just end there and just to say that there are these different challenges. No system gets it right. We have to think about the important mechanisms, but also think about prejudices and systematic historical issues that need to be considered at all times. And yet these are very challenging issues in the context of globalization and all of the issues that brings in itself. Sorry for going over, and thank you for your time.
Sure. Thank you, Professor Tahir Abbas, for your wonderful presentations. And before we are going to further presentation to the next speaker, I would like to invite you after this session. We would like to have a question and answer. So please just raise a question after the last speakers and be ready on that. So speaking about radicalism, terrorism, and everything. So we are moving from the European context to the Nigeria. We have here Imam Shefiu Abdulkareem Majemu, founder and co-executive director, Strength in Diversity Development Center and Interreligious Coalition Against Corruption in Nigeria, that will be talking about model of preventing violent extremism and radicalization in Nigeria. So please, Imam Shefiu, you have only 10 minutes. Could you please just give us exact time? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's been an honor to be part of this very important conference. We give thanks to Almighty Allah for His mercy and blessings. Thank you very much. We're looking at a model of preventing violent extremism in the Nigerian context and even in the sub-Saharan Africa. We know religion is very, very important. It's the opium of the people. We know how religion, being one of the played a vital role in designing the ways of life and thinking, perception, and ideology of the people. In Nigeria, we have two major religions, and that is Christianity and Islam. And by extension, we also have the traditional religion, which most people in Africa or in Nigeria believe that is the beginning of religion. I mean, that Christianity and Islam are alien, are foreign religion. They were brought by the Christianity was brought to Africa or West Africa by the colonial masters and also by the French colonies. In Islam, we most believe that Islam came through trade routes from Mali and so on and so forth. But historically, and also looking deeply into this, we all realize that religion, especially Islam, is as old as man, is not a new religion as people think. In my own context of discussion, and as part of what we have been doing, we have seen clearly where religion is being used as a tool of violent extremism. We all know that one can be violent, but you must not be extreme in your violence. And what we have recorded so far, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, are the various terrorist groups that have, that are connected or that have been contending with, that have connected all these acts of violence and terrorism to Islam. And how did we get here? It's because of the fact that, one, we do not have, especially in Nigeria, a ministry that manages religious affairs like we have in other parts of the world, where people can do whatever they like. People can, share any knowledge the way they like it. There is no guidelines and also means of doing things. I mean, there must be a trajectory or a framework of propagating your faith in Islam. If we look at recent incidents, we also discover that there are lack of education, Islamic education. People claimed to be knowledgeable about Islam. And based on the fact that we have the sect and sectarian line, that people have divided themselves, people in Islam today, we can see different kind of sects, groups, brotherhoods that share different ideology and are not accepting one another. We have seen situations whereby groups attack other groups because they want to attain that control. They want to get that control. As we have seen, we're looking at the drivers, the state of the nation. In the Nigerian history, we have issues of attack that have happened. And if you look at the first I talk about Mitasini was a group that was, set up by certain people who want to denigrate the reputation or drag the reputation of Islam and Muslims in Africa and in Nigeria to the mud. And it was after about 10 years of operation of the Metasini group that revelation came out that this group was set up to actually, demystify or also reduce the population of the Muslims and Islam in the northern part of Nigeria. Recently, we have the issue of Boko Haram, where they say their own ideology was that Western education is haram. Boko means Western education. Haram means prohibition. That meaning that Boko Western education and ideology and way of life is prohibited.
I think we have interconnection problems. We will wait for minutes for Imam Shefiu to come back to the panel. Okay. Meanwhile, we are waiting for the Imam Shefiu to come back to the panel. We would like to just give.
It was a great problem for us in where this dragging the reputation of speak to you. There are a lot of lives that have processed. Recently, emergency crisis, whereby a lot of property worth of billions. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Assalamu alaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are with you. We are still with you. Prophet Imam Shefiu, are you with us? Okay, the connection is unstable, I think, so we will come back when he come back. So we will continue our agenda to the question and answer. So we will give you, for the audience and participant, to raise a question for all the participants, either in here or in Zoom meeting. So please, we will give you 2 questions for you who have, yeah, sure. Just raise your hand. Cuman 1 aja ini yang tanya. Yang lainnya belum. Oh, ada 2. Okay, great. We have 2 participants here. So please here, the first and back. Narasumber ready? Okay, narasumber is ready. I'm sorry, so we postponed the questions, so we come back to the speaker. Please, Imam Shefiu, continue your presentation.
Yeah, thank you so much for returning back to me. I thought I'd been cut off. Yeah. Right now, what we are doing as an organization, because of time, to douse tension and also to bring Islam into the proper perspective of ensuring that people understand the real context of Islam and the position of Islam in terms of violent extremism. And as an organization, we have built capacity of religious leaders because they are the custodian of the people. They are the people that influence the thinking and the perception and the ideals and ideologies of the people. What we did was to bring in religious leaders from all parts of the country, to training them in another context of international worldview, for them to see what Islam is all about, how Islam is being practiced in the modern Saudi Arabia. I would say the modern Saudi Arabia, not the old Saudi Arabia. Now, and through the singular effort of the new Prince, Prince Salman Al Saudi, for ensuring that moderacy, this moderate discourse is brought into the Muslim world, especially in areas of education and enlightenment. We have taken them to Oman to see the kind of diversity, how as an Islamic state country, how they've been tolerant and been accepting other faiths to have their own ways and ways of worship within the context of the Islamic State. We have taken them to UAE to see how diversity is being strengthened to promote multilateral cooperations and to develop an economy. We have taken them to the United States of America to see how Muslims are doing well, collaborating with other faiths to build a nation. And today, I can proudly say that we have built close to 5,000 faith leaders that are really doing well. And they are going to this madrasa to also educate the tutors, educate the leaders, and ensuring that we all move into the middle and become al-mutawassitun. And that led to the creation and establishment of the International Center for Religious Moderation in Nigeria. This center is actually to start working on ensuring that there are practical ways of bringing the younger generation into the middle, rather than sharing the far extreme model of thinking that have led us into violent extremism, terrorism, and killing of innocent people in the name of religion. Because we know that a crime committed in the name of religion is actually a crime committed against that religion. We have seen situations whereby Christians in Nigeria have used the media to malign the image of the Muslims in Nigeria. And in this regard, as I speak to you, we have been able to establish another media, which is my own core area, to ensure that we put all these issues into proper perspective, ensuring that Muslims really understand usul al-din wa usul al-fiqh. This is critical to us, that for we are also working on some of the controversial, some of the ayatul Qur'aniyah. I mean, ayatul Qur'an means some Islamic verses that this terrorist group or violent extremist group bring as justification to legitimize their terrorist acts. And working on this, we are working on this text to give a proper perspective to them, that it wasn't the way they are translating or interpreting those texts, because there are sibabul nuzul, there are reasons for revelation. So we are not talking about reason for those realizations. There are nasikh wa mansukh, there are the abrogated and the abrogate verses that are in the Quran to give us context and focus. So all this we're working on. We also do what we call the scriptural reasoning. The scriptural reasoning is to bring in the Bible, the Quran, and all this together for Muslims to share knowledge from the Bible and the Christians to share knowledge from the Quran, and look at our common grounds. When we talk about common grounds, looking at issues that are particular to humanity. Our differences should be respected and tolerated. I'm a Muslim, you should accept me as a Muslim. You are a Christian, I should accept you as a Christian. You are a Jewish person, I should accept you as a Jewish person. Whatever you believe, you are a Salafiyah, you are a Sunni, you are a Sufi, you are whatever you are, that is your ideology about what you feel Islam is. But in other aspects of life, we can actually coexist peacefully without infringing on other rights or condemning other people, or trying to denigrate or degrade other people's faith. And we know there are clear verses in the Quran, there are clear injunctions to the Sunnah of the Prophet that have made it clear to us that we must not condemn other people. We must give them their space. We must create space for other people, and that is most teaching of Islam. Moderation is the main focus of Islam. Islam will tell you, lakum dinukum waliyadin. Your faith is your faith, their faith is their faith. Wala tasubbu alladhina, do not abuse those who do not believe in you, on what you believe, so they will not abuse your religion in ignorance. So these are the issues we have been managing, and alhamdulillah, today we are making headway. We are making a very appreciable impact in the life of the Muslims in Nigeria. And today we can see that even Boko Haram insurgency had reduced drastically. The issue of attack by the ISWAP is reduced drastically. We have a new government in Nigeria now that is very, very much concerned about our religion. If you remember recently, there was a coup d'etat in Niger Republic. Niger Republic is a neighbor to Nigeria, and in the about 7 states of Nigeria share border with Niger Republic. When the ECOWAS, the Economic of West African States, came up with the idea of going into Niger with armed struggle. The religious leaders in Nigeria, headed by the Sultan of Sokoto, His Eminence Al-Hajj Sadu Abubakar, they went on their own with the Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs to visit the junta in Niger Republic.
Excuse me,
and they were accepted at their suggestion.
Excuse me, Imam Shefiu, we have running of time. So could you please just give us a conclusion for this panel discussion?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, in conclusion, we have set up the Moderation Center, and the Moderation Center is to bring Muslims to the middle and to take them out of extremism. Our major focus will be on emerging leaders, the youth that are coming up, going to universities, schools, and so on and so forth, to ensure that people imbibe the culture of moderation and moderacy as far as religion is concerned, and teaching them usul, maqasid al-shar'iyya, and so on and so forth. These are part of our activities that the Strength University Development Center is actually streaming in Nigeria, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide every one of us. Thank you for giving me the opportunity and the platform to hear our own side part of this on this conference. Jazakumullahu khairul jaza. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much, Imam Shefiu. So we have like 10 minutes left. So there is 2 questions here from participant. We already have chosen the one already there, and the second one is back then. One and one. Yeah. Please, all together. I mean one by one. Satu-satu, ya.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
First of all, I want to say good morning for Imam Shefiu and for Profesor Tahir Abbas, good morning, and untuk teman-teman semuanya selamat sore. Nama saya Hakim dari Sekolah Tinggi Agama Islam Sunan Yogyakarta. Saya ingin bertanya soal Al-Baqarah ayat 113 tadi. Dan di situ dijelaskan bahwa kul hatu burhanakum in kuntum shadiqin, yang ayat itu menjelaskan bahwa tidak ada, yang saya percaya, saya nggak tahu kalau di Injil atau Taurat itu ada atau enggak, bukti tentang bahwa kaum Yahudi dan Nasrani itu tidak akan, yang akan masuk surga gitu. Yang saya percayai tidak ada buktinya gitu. Nah, lalu di surat Ali Imran itu ada ayat yang berbunyi inna dina indallahil Islam, bahwa agama di sisi Allah adalah Islam. Nah, fakta ini saya pikir akan menimbulkan kesombongan untuk umat muslim bahwa agama yang dipilih oleh Tuhan itu hanya Islam. Nah, saya ingin bertanya, apakah langkah-langkah yang harus kita lakukan untuk mencegah kesombongan tersebut? Terima kasih.
Oke, pertanyaan kedua dari belakang tadi, perempuan satu, perwakilan perempuan.
Iya benar, itu sering digunakan ayat itu.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, my name is Bilqis Khairia. I'd like to ask some questions related to Islamic phobia actually, because recently I was reading about some news that's really happening in Korea. It's about the construction of masjid in Daegu. So, but unfortunately, even if the government in Korea already accepted to build the masjid, the society who are living around Korea keep complaining till now. And the worst thing is they kind of, put some pig around the masjid so that the construction can be stopped. My question is, how can we react as tolerant as possible? Because I'm a Muslim. Once I see this kind of phenomenon, I feel like it's such the most miserable things, and I couldn't even deny that I really mad at it. So how can I react so that they can understand, and the Islamophobia, especially overseas, can even be reduced? So yeah, that's all.
Okay, thank you for the questions. We give applause first. Thank you for the questions. For the first, I think Professor Sahiron will answer, and the second questions will be answered by Professor Tahir Abbas. Right. So please.
Pertanyaan sulit memang ini.
Question is difficult.
Oh yeah, okay, good. Translate into English, right? Good. Jadi karena pertanyaannya bahasa Indonesia, saya pakai bahasa Indonesia untuk menghormati bahasa Indonesia juga ya, dan so jadi gini, ada memang ayat-ayat muhkamat, ada juga ayat mutasyabihat. Ayat-ayat muhkamat menurut pemahaman saya memang there are so many opinions related to the definition of muhkamat and mutasyabihat ya. Ada ayat jelas, ada ayat tidak jelas. Tidak jelas itu mutasyabihat maksudnya, tapi orang itu biasa menerjemahkan agak susah juga ya. Nah, ayat muhkamat itu adalah ayat-ayat yang makna langsungnya, direct meaningnya itu klop banget dengan wama arsalnaka illa rahmatan lil alamin. Misalnya nih, ayat tentang beriman kepada Allah Subhanahu wa taala muhkamat. Ayat tidak boleh berbuat baik kepada orang tua, harus berbuat baik kepada orang tua muhkamat. Wala taqtulu anfusakum, hadhil ayat hiya ayatun muhkamah. Jadi yang sesuai dengan rahmatan lil alamin, those verses that are, in line with the ethical, aspects, ethical norm, ya, rahmatan lil alamin, grace, rahmah to everyone, itu muhkamat, are muhkamat verses. Nah, ada lagi ayat-ayat mutasyabihat, yaitu ayat-ayat yang memang makna langsungnya itu nampaknya tidak sesuai dengan ethical norms, norma-norma etika seperti ayat perang, ayat klaim kebenaran pada dirinya sendiri. Ayat inna dina indallahil Islam, coba cek di dalam tafsirnya. Sebelum Pak Sahiron, sebelum menggunakan contextualis approach, belum nih. Baru kita melihat ayat-ayat tafsir dari ayat-ayat Al-Quran itu, dari ayat Al-Quran tersebut. Coba perhatikan, inna dina indallahil Islam. Selama ini itu kita menerjemahkan sesungguhnya agama Islam, organized religion of Islam. Only the organized religion of Islam is accepted by God, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. In it, this translation is everywhere. Ya, I mean, hampir kita dapatin itu semuanya. Jadi agama-agama lain tidak diterima oleh Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Logikanya tuh begitu. Sekarang coba kita cek tafsirnya. Misalnya kita buka At-Tabari. Ya. At-Tabari itu Aidin. Ini bukan organized religion of Islam, tetapi at-ta'ah wa ta'abbud. At-ta'ah wa ta'abbud alladhi yaqbaluhum Allah huwal Islam ay at-tauhid. Ini yang sering sekali diterjemahkan kok jadinya hanya sendirinya, eksklusif, klaim eksklusivist. Apa namanya eksklusivist? Klaim eksklusif kebenaran hanya pada diri kita. Nah ini problem, coba cek tafsirnya. Saya tidak mengadakan, coba cek At-Tabari. Itu ad-din ay at-ta'ah wa ta'abbud. Ketaatan dan penyembahan yang diterima oleh Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala adalah at-tauhid. Jadi wa may yabtaghi ghairal islami dinan fala yuqbala min, itu asyirk. Syirik yang tidak diterima itu. Nah, cuma kita kadung menerjemahkan bahwa agama Islam sajalah yang diterima oleh Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Agama Islam dalam arti organized religion of Islam. Tapi al-Islam here in this verse is at-tauhid. Kama qala Qatadah ya fi tafsir tafsir al-Quran al-Azim Ibn Katsir. Qala Qatadah, ad-dinul ladzi la yaqbaluhu Allahu ghairahu. Ad-din alladzi la yaqbalu ghairahu la yaqbalu Allahu ghairahu huwa at-tauhid wal ikhlas lillahi ta'ala. Agama yang selain itu tidak diterima, ya, hanya itu saja yang diterima, itu at-tauhid wal ikhlas. Percaya sama satu Tuhan, believe in one God. Bukan organized religion. Nah, sekarang pertanyaannya, Pak, tauhidnya bagaimana? Nah, tauhid sendiri beda-beda. Ini yang harus, tauhid percaya satu Tuhan. At-tauhid, we believe in one God. What is the definition of tauhid? We have different opinion in this case. Sunni dengan Mu'tazili sudah berbeda loh ya. Ahlus sunnah wal jamaah, kita mengatakan at-tauhid bi dzatihi wa sifatihi wa af'alihi. Tauhid satu, zatnya, sifatnya, dan juga af'alnya. Kalau Mu'tazili gimana? At-tauhid huwa at-tauhid lillahi hanya fi dzatihi tok, titik. Enggak ada fi sifatihi walaysa fi fi af'alihi. Jadi hanya at-tauhid fi dzatihi, itu Mu'tazili. Sunni kita yang Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaah fi dzatihi wa sifatihi wa af'alihi. Terlepas dari perbedaan pemahaman tauhidnya, tetapi intinya percaya satu Tuhan ini loh. Satu Tuhan ini penting. Nah, apakah agama-agama yang lain selain Islam mengakui satu Tuhan, hakikatnya yang disembah, ya mau kembalikan kepada para pemeluknya. Sudah, nggak usah sedih dengan jawaban ini, tenang saja pokoknya. Gini. Di ayat 113, sudahlah nggak usah konflik. We don't have to have a conflict between, communities of religious, different religious, different religions. Ya, tidak perlu konflik dalam hal ini. Ayat 113 Al-Baqarah. Fallahu yahkumu bainahum yaumal qiyamah. Fallahu yahkumu bainahum yaumal qiyamati fima kanu fihi yakhtalifun. Yang artinya kita di dunia tidak perlu konflik dengan perbedaan agama, perbedaan keyakinan, perbedaan organisasi. Sudahlah hidup bersama saja. Fallahu, hanya Allah sajalah yahkumu bainahum yaumal qiyamah. Kenapa ada yaumal qiyamah? Di dunia jangan konflik. Sudahlah diserahkan pada Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Itu moderasi beragama, itu menghormati orang lain, toleransi, ya sudah. Nah sekarang kan sering perbedaan keyakinan, jadi kemudian apa konflik lah. Termasuk yang di Korea tadi, in Korea for example ya. Of course, yeah, we need we would like to listen to other speaker also, ya. Nah, kita bagi umat Islam ini supaya Islamofobia, ya, itu tidak terus ada di beberapa orang entah di mana. Kita tampilkan Islam yang moderat, kita tampilkan Islam yang penuh kedamaian dan seterusnya, tanpa harus emosi dan gitu. Jadi biarkan saja orang-orang yang itu. Nah kita boleh kritik. We should also criticize, ya, the criminal actions done by certain people, ya, in order to, for example, to be against Islam and so on and so forth. Ya kita harus menyampaikan Islam itu begini dan seterusnya. Memang harus sabar. Orang moderat itu harus sabar. Ya gitu, kira-kira gitu. Harus terus kayak gitu. Nah jadi intinya Mas, yang dari coba perhatikan apa sih sebenarnya ayat inna dina indallahil Islam. Jangan sampai keliru. Maka wa may yabtaghi ghairal islami dinan fala yuqbal, itu maksudnya syirik tidak diterima. Nah, apakah agama lain syirik atau tidak? Ya saya kembalikan, silakan renungin sendiri. Pokoknya yang akan diterima oleh Allah itu yang percaya hanya satu, believe in one God. Tauhid. Definisi believe in one God, we have different opinion in this case. No problem. Ya, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. So, for the next question, I think Professor Zohir Abbas will answer for the second question. Could you please? Yeah, please. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. I think this is very important because what's going on in other parts of the world impacts what's going on locally. But what's happening in South Korea is an example of Islamophobia. So what can you do as an Indonesian citizen? You can reach out to Muslim organizations in South Korea. You can write op-eds. You can use social media to highlight positive messages about Islam and Korea. Maybe even record short videos. How about a petition organized by citizens and religious scholars addressing the South Korean government? Then you can work with government agencies and to try and build awareness and understanding. Islamophobia is a really deep, big problem across all societies, even within countries that have significant Muslim populations. So activism, which is peaceful, organized, coordinated, building with other faith groups, is the only real way forward. And so you can use those energies in a positive way in this manner. And perhaps it makes a difference. You can only but try.
Okay, thank you so much for the answer, Professor Zohir Abbas. And as we come to the close of this insightful panel discussion on religious moderatism, we are reminded of the significance of this balanced and inclusive approach in today's complex world. So as we conclude, let us carry forward the insights gained from this discussion into our personal lives, communities, and societies at large. And the principle of religious moderatism over a roadmap of building bridges, fostering understanding, and nurturing a world where diverse beliefs coexist harmoniously. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed speakers, panelists, and for sharing their expertise and perspective. And to all of you, our attentive audience, thank you so much for coming, for joining this conference. Thank you, and may our journey towards understanding and moderation continue to flourish. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.